Thanks, everyone. Firstly, I just want to thank everyone for coming, for members who've been here, officers, directors, members of the public. Thank you for coming along today. Secondly, I just wanted to mention the reason for calling this extraordinary meeting. Road safety is something that impacts across North Yorkshire, and there are some real serious issues in the Selby district. So it's something that I know members feel very strongly about. So hopefully there's going to be some positive actions and recommendations come out of today. I'm just going to introduce slightly what we're going to do for the day, just so that everybody for the meeting, just so that we're all up to speed. What I want to do is introduce everyone that's come along today, that will be helping us with presentations and answering questions. We'll go then through the normal agenda items up to public questions. We're then going to hear from MP Keir Mather, and then we've got a presentation on road safety. At that point, after we've heard all of that information, I'll then come back for members' questions. What I want to be really clear on is that we've got all of the information in front of us before that we ask questions. So scribble away, note away anything that you want to ask, and we'll go after item 7. So thanks, everyone. So if we can start by introducing everyone that's here. Sorry, we'll do apologies first. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. We've got apologies from Councillor Grogan and Councillor Katanak.
Thank you.
Councillor Crane as well, and Councillor Arthur is here.
Thank you. And then we'll go to item 3, which is the minutes of the meeting held on the 18th of September 2025. Are all in agreement that they're a fair representation of that meeting? Can I have a show of hands? Thank you. Yeah, good. Declarations of interests? Any declarations? Nope. So before we go to public questions, I'm just going to introduce everyone that's come along today. I'm just seeing who's here different today. So I'll come to each director or officer, if you just don't mind explaining who you are and what you're here to represent. So Carl, if I can come to you first, thanks.
Thanks, Chair. So I'm Carl Battersby. I'm the Council's Corporate Director of Environment. So my area covers highways, which is obviously most pertinent today, but covers a lot of the Council's, the frontline regulatory services. And I'm here for this item today, but also with my colleague, Alan, who will introduce himself shortly. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Carl. And I'll come to you next, Alan, if that's okay. Do you mind just coming forward to one of the microphones and just introducing who you are and what your role is? Thanks.
Hello, my name is Alan McVeigh. I'm Head of Network Strategy at North Yorkshire Council. I'm responsible for a number of teams, but in the context of today, most specifically traffic engineering and road safety.
Thanks, Alan. Malcolm?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm Councillor Malcolm Taylor. I represent the Hubie and Tolleton ward in North Yorkshire, but I'm the Executive Member for Highways and Transport. That's why I'm here today.
Thank you. And we have MP Keir Mather, who is sat there. I won't make you come forward. I think we all know who you are. And joining us online is John Hunter. I apologise. John, can you hear everything?
I can. I can't. You can't see me, but I can hear you perfectly. Thank you.
Do you mind just introducing what your role is, John? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm John Hunter. I'm one of the North Yorkshire Police Traffic Management Officers. And I work very closely with Alan McVeigh, and I conducted or part of the site visit following the recent fatality where Mr. Duggan was sadly killed.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. So we'll go on to item 5, which is public questions. I just want to be really mindful and aware that there's some really emotive subjects covered here. It's going to be really challenging. Please just take a breath. If you need to take a moment at all, please just let us know and we can just pause for a moment. There's some tissues and water available. So thanks all for being here. So I'll hand over to you, David.
Yes, thank you, Chair. We've got 3 public statements before the deadline. I'll just remind speakers that they get 3 minutes to read their statement. A response will be given after each statement, and then you get a 30-second supplementary question should you wish to use it. So the first speaker is Martin Wiles, who's the Chair of Rickle Parish Council. Please, if you can come up to the microphone.
First of all, thank you very much for letting me speak today on behalf of Rickle Parish Council. I'd like to mention the work that you've already instigated as a council recently with regard to the
50 mile an hour temporary speed restriction. We hope that this will be instigated very soon. For the last 20 years or more, Rickham Parish Council and our residents have consistently raised safety concerns regarding the A19 as it passes through our village with North Yorkshire Council. It is a great concern to all of us in Rickham that this major highway is becoming busier and more noisy and hazardous each year. Rickham is in the unique position of having 7 entrances and exits to and from the A19 to our relatively small village, all of which have a present speed limit of 60 miles an hour. We absolutely believe permanent road safety solutions are well overdue. Since 2000, highway and police statistics show and have recorded approximately 50 traffic incidents, which have led to 28 serious injuries and 7 fatalities in that time. That is 1 person injured or killed every 8 months. This cannot go on. The late and much missed retired county, district and parish councillor John Duggan was a fierce advocate on your council for change and road safety in and around Rickham. We must not allow this latest tragedy to become yet another dusty statistic. Over the last few years, the Parish Council have on many occasions raised this most important issue with sadly very little to show for our efforts. We wholeheartedly support the spirit and content of the letter that you, the Council, have recently received from our MP, Keir Mather. Additionally, as the Parish Council, we would propose 7 improvements that ought to be considered very soon in connection with the much needed improvements to our stretch of the A19. If implemented, these improvements would drastically improve the safety and well-being of all who live and visit our village and show that the Council really listens to the concerns of local residents and takes them seriously. They are as follows: noise-reducing fencing, VAS signs, a speed restriction of 40 miles an hour, speed or average speed limit cameras, a slip road onto the main village from the south off the A19, traffic lights on the A19 north and south, roundabouts on the A19 north and south. We as a parish council are aware of the many budget constraints the council have to manage, so we are not asking for all this at once. We are committed, however, to working closely and in partnership with North Yorkshire Council to develop a structured, costed and detailed plan to achieve these improvements as soon as practical. A good start would be a permanent speed restriction on the A19 of 40 miles an hour, enforced with static or VAS signs. We look forward to a productive and collaborative approach from North Yorkshire Council to help us improve the lives of the hundreds of residents in Rickham and the surrounding area. Thank you.
Thank you. If I could ask you to go back to take a seat, and then Alan McVeigh is going to come up for a response.
Thank you for your statement regarding the collision history on the A19 and for setting out the community's concerns and suggested proposals. I would like to start by saying NYC recognises a number of these concerns and is already in the process of identifying and seeking to introduce a series of permanent improvements to reduce risk, and that I hope will offer some community reassurance. It is worth noting that personal injury collision data older than 3 or 5 years tends to be excluded for collision investigation purposes, given likely changes in land use, vehicle technology, traffic volume, driver behaviour, and any legislative changes. Generally, a 3-year window is considered sufficient to identify statistically significant trends while remaining relevant to current conditions. Nevertheless, a total of 30 collisions have occurred at the 5 separate junctions since 01 January 2000, 4 of which resulted in a fatality, 9 in serious injuries, with 17 collisions resulting in slight personal injury. For completeness, the junctions are Road to Hollycars, York Road into Rickham, King Rudding Lane, Main Street into Rickham, and Selby Road. That means an average 1 killed or seriously injured collision has occurred every 2 years on the extent of the A19, from the northernmost of the 5 junctions to the southernmost junction. A study of the collision dates and frequencies, though, shows that collision numbers have been falling across all 5 junctions over the 25-year period. Our engineers compile a list of collision cluster sites and routes of concern for possible action each year. A cluster site is a location where there have been 4 or more personal injury collisions within a fixed radius over the previous 3-year period. These sites are the subject of further investigation and, where appropriate, improvement measures are introduced to reduce the risk of future collisions occurring. None of the 5 junctions on the A19 have been a collision cluster site since 2002 or highlighted as a route of concern. With regards to the proposals listed, the installation of noise reducing fencing, from a local highway authority perspective, traffic noise is likely to be lower following the introduction of the proposed reduced speed limit, and we will, as a future consideration, look into the potential of noise absorbing road surface materials as part of any future planned maintenance scheme. 2. The installation of vehicle activated signs. Although the A19 at this location does not meet the required threshold for the installation of permanent VAS, we recognise that their introduction would complement the other measures we are proposing to implement. To that extent, we'd be happy to discuss this option further with the Parish Council. 3. The installation of a permanent 40-mile-an-hour speed restriction. In accordance with government guidance for setting local speed limits, we would be unable to support this request on the A19, and importantly, neither would North Yorkshire Police. Both NYC and NYP do, though, support the introduction of a lower 50-mile-an-hour speed limit, and work is ongoing to introduce a 50-mile-an-hour speed limit later this year through the creation of an experimental traffic regulation order. The experimental nature of the order simply allows us to introduce the change sooner by consulting concurrently with the introduction of the lower speed limit. The speed limit scheme will be reinforced with the installation of gateway-type features, including large yellow-backed speed limit signs, rumble strips, and road marking speed limit roundels at regular intervals to encourage compliance. We will also be improving direction and warning signs on the A19, along with signage on the Selby Road approach to reinforce the giveaway situation, and we will look to see if there are any other local improvements we can make to the individual junctions as part of the scheme. 4. Speed camera enforcement. Speed enforcement is a matter for North Yorkshire Police. The Council, though, is involved in a project which is currently investigating the feasibility of fixed and/or average speed cameras on the local road network in the county. Given the live status of the project, I am unable at this stage to confirm the outcome, but the matter is under active consideration and the results of the study will be published in due course. 5. A southbound slip road into the village. If the Parish Council is able to offer further information on this proposal, we'd be happy to provide a more detailed response. 6. Signal control junctions to the north and south of Rickhall. Generally speaking, traffic signals are provided to manage flows and delays between main and side roads, to offer safe crossing places or to reduce conflict. Signal control at a road junction may be justified if a site has a poor collision history with a demonstrable collision pattern and/or where there is a dominant flow of one road leading to congestion. Traffic signal control generally decreases the severity of collisions, but there is likely to be an increase in the number of shunt-type collisions that need to be factored into any assessment or consideration. Cost is also a key consideration, which could be circa £1 million for each of the Rickhall junctions in question, not including future maintenance costs, incorporating fault attendance, energy consumption, and full asset replacement every 15 years. It is for this reason that traffic signals tend to be a last resort when other interventions have failed to address the problem. Given NYC is proposing to introduce a series of improvements to further reduce collision risk, traffic signals would not be a consideration at this time. Roundabouts at both main junctions. If a roundabout is considered necessary, key factors include land acquisition and funding. Without undertaking further study to arrive at a more detailed cost estimate, but based on figures at other similar locations where we've considered a roundabout, the cost could be circa £5 million. A prior consideration, though, before looking at feasibility and cost, is whether the circumstances first require a major intervention. To that extent, collision history is an important factor in that decision-making process, and there should be one preferably in which there is an underlying pattern or dominant collision causation which would benefit from a major junction upgrade being introduced. The principal objective of a roundabout is to minimise delay for vehicles whilst maintaining the safe passage of all road users through the junction. With safety being a key consideration at the A19 Rickhall junctions, caution needs to be exercised in relation to identifying the most appropriate solution. Given the approach speeds and high traffic volumes on the A19, it is likely that a normal roundabout with a large central island would be required. Normal roundabouts are generally effective in reducing collision severity, but we would need to ensure that the junctions at Rickhall would not see an increase in personal injury collision frequency. A concern with normal roundabouts with a large central island, for example, is the potential for shunt-type accidents on the approaches, entry circulatory conflicts, lane changing collisions, and high-speed entries by single vehicles, resulting in loss of control and colliding with some part of the junction. Two-wheeled road users also tend to find roundabouts less safe. It is worth noting that in the 5 years prior to the recent fatal collision, there had been no personal injury collisions at the northern junction onto the A19, and in relation to the southern junction, there has been one serious collision to achieve the desired outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. And I should have added that a written response will be sent round after the meeting. Councillor Wiles, do you have a supplementary question to that? If you come forward, please. Thank you. I remind you, get 30 seconds first.
Just really quickly, in regard to the roundabout issue, which we do feel as a council very important as part of our ongoing future proofing of the safety for our village, we would be particularly concerned that at one point Councillor John Duggan put forward the option of a roundabout which was accepted by the council, and monies previously were allocated to that, admittedly much less than what the amount is at the moment. So I need to ask the highways people what has changed between then and now to make what John did a number of years ago to be successful and what is now seemingly unsuccessful. Thank you.
Thank you. Alan, do you want to respond now or a written response after the meeting?
I can provide a response now if you wish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please, thank you.
Yeah. Do you want me to come? Yeah.
Yes, please, if you can. Thank you.
Okay. So there was £850,000 that was handed across from what was at the time Highways Agency. We used almost £100,000 of that for local safety scheme improvements in the area. That improved the collision history at that location. There was an improved safety record. And in 2007, there was a formal council decision taken to transfer the remaining budget into the wider capital works programme to look at other local safety scheme improvements elsewhere.
Thank you. And yeah, a written response will be sent to you after the meeting. Thank you. So our next public speaker is Sue Galton, please. If you can come up and press the microphone. Once again, you get 3 minutes first.
Good afternoon. My name is Sue Galton, and I'm here on behalf of the Rickle Roads Action Group, which was formed after the tragic death of former councillor John Duggan, a greatly valued member of our community and a tireless campaigner for safer roads at the Rickle junctions. We're speaking for everyone who uses the A19 junctions, all trying to join heavy, fast-moving traffic from a standstill. We have no reasonable alternative route. We just want to be able to use those junctions safely. Our submission shows the strength of feeling in our wider community and the clear evidence-based case for a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit and the roundabout that was promised and funded back in 2006. When we met with senior officers last week, we were told that the A19 is a safe road and that our day-to-day experiences carry no weight because there haven't been enough serious crashes or deaths to justify significant change. We find that deeply troubling. We're calling on North Yorkshire Council to be proactive and prevent tragedy, not wait for more tragedy to happen before taking action. Elsewhere on the A19, other communities have been listened to. In Deaton, for example, in 2013, City of York Council listened to the community following a pedestrian death and replaced a 60-mile-an-hour limit with 40, including 50-mile-an-hour buffer zones on either side. This was in the face of strong opposition from the police, who refused to support it and said it couldn't be enforced, as they are doing in this case. Is safety really a postcode lottery? Because it's certainly beginning to feel like it. The data from county officers details the speed of traffic along our stretch of road as being around 50 miles an hour. Given that it is already moving at this speed, a 50-mile-an-hour limit will make no measurable difference to us. Make no mistake, we welcome the offer of a reduced speed limit, and we're grateful that this change is on the table. However, given that the funding has already been allocated to changing the limit to 50, why not go to 40? You have a mandate from the Transport Minister to do so. It is within your power, and we have given you the evidence to support this request. So today we're asking you to examine the evidence we present and to recognise the strength of local support. Officers have presented to you the raw data. We are bringing you the voices of the community who live and work here every day. Our parish council and local politicians, Keir Mather, Stephen Duckett, have listened to us. They recognise our concerns and support us. We're calling for a 40-mile-an-hour limit past Rickle to be delivered within this financial year and for the roundabout to be reinstated in the Capital Forward Plan. We've demonstrated in our submission that with the will to do it, it can be done. If our proposal is agreed, we will throw our efforts behind council officers to support them to deliver the programme. This would demonstrate local democracy at its best, communities, politicians and officials working together for the common good. If it is refused, we will have to continue our campaign for as long as it takes, because our community deserves roads that are truly as safe as you can make them. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. And have you got a response, Alan, please? Thank you.
Thank you for your statement seeking to make a case for a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit and the introduction of a roundabout. We are aware of the devastating consequences that a road fatality has on the family, friends and wider community. It is in part for this reason that available funding should only ever be targeted where it is needed most, i.e. where there is greatest scope to reduce collision risk and injury. It remains the case that none of the 5 junctions at Rickall on the A19 are comparable to many of the junctions and sites elsewhere in the county with a higher frequency of collisions and which suffer from greater risk. None of the Rickall junctions have been a collision cluster site for over 20 years, and collision numbers here are decreasing. At the same time, NYC recognises local concerns and the strength of feeling in the community, which we are listening to. As a result, we have agreed to implement a series of additional safety measures that are balanced against the national guidance and good practice, and which we believe will further reduce the risk of potential future collisions. Existing mean speeds help form the basis for speed limits, and this, together with the concerns being expressed, are why we are happy to support a 50-mile-an-hour speed limit. We fully expect the measures we are proposing to have a dampening effect on current mean speeds, and so to further reduce collision risk and severity. The example of Deaton is not considered comparable to Rickall, given the multiple number of direct accesses that outlying properties have onto the A19 in Deaton. A 40-mile-an-hour speed limit looks and feels appropriate. These are visual and evident reasons for motorists to reduce their speed, and potential hazards of this nature are important factors in ensuring good compliance. In terms of the history surrounding the potential roundabout, we believe just over £90,000 was spent on road safety engineering improvements locally, which essentially addressed the existing collision problem at the time, and which helps explain the long-term downward trend in collision numbers since. On that basis, there was a formal decision in 2007 to remove the proposals from the Council's Highway Capital Works programme, given the improving safety record at that location. It is worth noting that the government has recently set incredibly ambitious housing growth targets for North Yorkshire, so significant development is planned across the county in the coming years. As part of that process, there will be a need to test the impacts of that housing growth, including traffic generation, against the existing background growth, and an infrastructure delivery plan will be produced that sets out the infrastructure required to cater for the extra demand. Thank you.
Thank you for the response. And Sue, do you have a supplementary question? Again, I'll remind you of 30 seconds first.
Yes, thank you, Alan, for that response. I'd like to invite county officers to visit the area, to meet with us, to look at our concerns, and also to visit Deaton, where you will see that there are far less entrances onto the A19 there than there are in the stretch of road that we're discussing here today. I think that's all I need to say on that matter. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Do you want to provide a response or follow up? Of course.
We have discussed very recently about a site visit, and I'm more than happy with colleagues to visit the Parish Council and our RAG as well and discuss these matters further.
Thank you. And we have one more public speaker, who is Judy Mitchinson, please. If you can come up to the microphone, please. Again, I'll remind you of 3 minutes. Okay.
Good afternoon. I am Judy Mitchinson. I'm here to represent my mother and our family after the devastating death of my father. John Duggan, my father, died on the 1st of August 2025 as a result of a traffic collision at the north end of Rickle onto the A19. He was attempting to turn right at this junction to travel towards Selby. It was a clear, bright day with full visibility. John was a former HGV driver and he knew the dangers of the road better than most. He dedicated years of his life to campaigning for safer roads for his community, knowing that people had lost their lives at the dangerous junctions. The family find irony in the fact that he served, he warned, he cared, but the very danger he campaigned so hard to prevent is what took his life. His tragic death was shocking and has left our family and this community devastated. It must serve as a warning that when safety measures are not implemented, that lives are lost, namely 5 lives up to date. A roundabout installation is costly, and my father was firmly assured in 2006 that the then necessary funding of £850,000 was allocated to the project of building a roundabout at Rickle. However, that firm assurance turned out to be a false promise, as the funds were devastatingly allocated elsewhere. We know it's costly. What's the cost of a life? Every fatality carries not just the emotional pain, but an enormous social and economic cost. The cost to the wider society is vast. Thousands of people have had their lives impacted by the recent road traffic accident, costing families and businesses a huge loss of time and money on the day. In 2020, John was interviewed by the press, and he stated that the biggest regret of his life was that he did not achieve the building of the roundabout he was promised as a county councillor. After my father's tragic accident, the safety of the road needs to be future-proofed. The expansion of nearby towns and villages regarding housing and industrial estates will cause increased traffic, and this will have a severe impact on safety at the junctions of the A19. Making necessary safety improvements now will save lives in the future. All the users of the A19 between Selby and York are at risk of a collision. I appeal to you to learn from the mistakes made in the past and safeguard people's lives by building a roundabout in Rickle. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Alan, have you got a response, please? Thank you.
Dear Ms Mitchinson, council officers and members alike were saddened by the recent passing of your father. Please accept our deepest sympathies and condolences. As a result of his untimely passing and the strength of feeling locally, we are committed to introducing a series of practical road safety improvements that we believe will reduce the risk and severity of future collisions. In terms of the history surrounding the potential roundabout, we believe just over £90,000 was spent on road safety engineering improvements locally, which essentially addressed the existing problem at the time and which helps explain the long-term downward trend in collision numbers since. On that basis, whilst acknowledging your comments over what may have been discussed or agreed in the past, there was a formal decision in 2007 to remove the proposals from the Council's Highways Capital Works programme, given the improving safety record at the junction. It is worth noting that the government has set incredibly ambitious housing targets for North Yorkshire, so significant development is planned across the county in the coming years. At that process, there will be a need to assess the impacts of that housing growth, including traffic generation, against the existing background growth, and an infrastructure delivery plan will be produced that sets out the infrastructure required to cater for that extra demand. In the meantime, we are looking forward to working with the community and its representatives on introducing the proposed road safety improvements, which I hope will go some way to addressing local concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms Mitchinson, do you have a supplementary question? I remind you get 30 seconds for this. Thank you.
For years, my dad, John Duggan, warned that the A19 junctions in and out of Rickle were dangerous. He didn't do it for praise, politics, or recognition. He did it because he cared, because he wanted to keep families safe. He's not here to speak anymore, but I am, and I carry his voice with me. And if he were here now, he would reiterate the words that he has said so many times before at meetings like this. That if safety measures, no less than a roundabout, are not implemented, another life will be lost. You have a duty of care to all road users. You need to future-proof those dangerous junctions. So I ask you, when will you commit to building the roundabout you promised?
And do you want to provide a response to that now or follow me?
Thank you, everyone, and thank you for sharing such, sensitive and really difficult statements. If I could invite Keir to come forward, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. May I just begin, because I don't think I've yet had the opportunity, by formally putting on the record my profound condolences to John's family. And I also just want to briefly mention the enormous legacy that John's left, both in the politics of the Selby district, his long and phenomenal career of public service, but also his warmth, his passion, his enthusiasm was something that I certainly had the opportunity to benefit from as I began in this role. And I think he set a very strong example for us all about the tenacity and commitment we need to show in making progress on this most important issue, and ensuring that we honour his memory by making sure that all of us work together to make sure that we make the A19 safer, that we make Rickle a safer and happier place to live by making improvements on this road and honouring his memory by doing so. I'd like to thank you as chair and everyone at North Yorkshire Council, all the staff who've made this extraordinary meeting possible. North Yorkshire Council have engaged constructively with us on this matter, and I was heartened to hear about some of the proposals that they wish to take forward. But I'd also just like to thank Rickle Road Action Group, who I believe have really constructed their case for the proposals, both diligently, sensitively, but also pragmatically. And I'd thank them for the kind of proactive and pragmatic way in which they've engaged with council officials. As well as Rickle Parish Council, and I see it as my responsibility as the Member of Parliament to make sure that we're able to convene as many people together to make sure that we can speak about these issues with the sensitivity they require, but also with a common purpose to secure action. I'm pleased to hear about the measures around VAS and rumble strips and a 50-mile-an-hour limit. But in Rickle, we believe 40 miles an hour should still be on the table pending the outcome of the traffic regulation order and trial. I do respect what the representative from North Yorkshire Council had to say on the principle of guidance when it comes to speed limits, but guidance is guidance, and in that regard, I think it needs to be tested to the extent to which it is a binding set of guidance. We've received communications which suggest that it is not, and I would like to take that conversation further to explore how we can reconcile what are currently different perspectives on this matter. And as I say, I'm happy to convene anybody together to discuss these issues. And I should just also say what I should have said at the start, which is that all of my comments today are made in my capacity as Selby's local constituency Member of Parliament. We also support measures to ensure compliance, including fixed speed cameras on the stretch. And I would urge the council to work with the police to make this a reality with all haste. And I'll be engaging with Joe Coles, the Deputy Mayor, to see if we can progress these matters further. I would also be grateful to see any expected timeframes for the rollout of the measures endorsed by North Yorkshire Council and Rickle Parish Council, including the rumble strips and any proposals around VAS. I do hope that this is the start of the conversation on what sort of measures are necessary, and I'll do anything to facilitate those conversations going forward. And then finally, just to finish, I would add that more broadly across the Selby district, wherever I hold events, road safety consistently comes up as a top priority, both in urban settings on Flaxley Road in Selby, but certainly in the rural villages across the Selby district. In the months ahead, the council should receive a 3-year settlement of which transport funding would be a part, and I would urge them to press ahead in establishing where works might be needed to address these community concerns. And I've especially received concerns in Rickle, Monk Fryston, and from residents in Hambleton and Burn. And we'll continue to work with them to make sure that they can press that case going forward. So it's been a genuine privilege to kind of make these observations and set out this case. I should state again, in my capacity as the local constituency member of Parliament for Selby, I'm always happy to bring people together to push these matters forward. And I thank you, Chair, and everyone who's come together today to discuss these issues with the purposefulness and the decisiveness, but with also the sensitivity that they deserve to honour the memory of Councillor John Duggan. Thank you.
Thank you, Keir. I just want to also note to members that Sir Alex Shelby was contacted and reached out for to join us or to give a public statement. We've not received anything to date. I also just wanted to mention in the public reports back that there's a letter from Keir that was sent to Councillor Taylor. We know that there's a response that's gone to that. Do you want to just have a mention of that, Malcolm, because that will be in the public domain?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just very briefly, I obviously note your letter that you sent and copied in Joe Coles and the area councillor as well, Steph Duckett. And I have collated information, responded back to you, and hopefully you'll be able to read that. And I think we have a meeting coming up very shortly, and we can discuss the points on there at that date. So thank you, Chair.
That's great. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. So we move on to the road safety update. If I can ask Alan to come forward again, please. I don't know if Carl is joining Alan or if it's just to you.
Alan's going to lead, Chair, but I'll chip in as and when required. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So the brief from the area committee was pretty clear, really, which was to kind of set out the problem sites, the routes more widely, and what it is that we're doing to address them, and to improve road safety across the kind of wider area committee geography. There's lots of information contained in the presentation. I don't plan to go into minute detail on each of the slides, but I may focus on certain aspects as we go through, obviously including recall as well being a particular focus. In terms of painting that wider picture, though, I do hope that members will see that road safety is a priority for the council, and that what comes through is that this is a part of the service that we do take our responsibilities very seriously. And as we pointed out already, John Hunter was on the call. John hasn't seen the presentation. He's on leave at the moment, but I'm happy if John wishes to kind of chip in as well. That isn't a problem from my perspective. Okay, next slide, please, David. Thanks. So briefly, we categorise personal injury collisions as fatal, serious or slight. We don't capture near misses or damage only collisions. And typically for engineering purposes, we look at the previous 3-year collision history, sometimes 5. Much longer than that, and the data are less relevant to current conditions. You can see the overall collision numbers in the committee area for the last 3 full years, and the draft unvalidated numbers as well for the calendar year to date. And they're just there for info. Okay, next slide. Thanks. So there was a total of 134 what we refer to as KSI collisions, killed or seriously injured, in the last 3 full years in the area committee area, 61 of which were on the top 10 highest ranked roads for collision frequency. In terms of the A19 being ranked second highest, this is from a purely collision number perspective, so that takes no account of of risk. In terms of risk, it is worth noting that following some subsequent analysis, the section of the A19 between the York and Selby boundary is ranked 9th in terms of number of collisions per kilometre, and is not in the top 10 in terms of the number of collisions per billion vehicle kilometres travelled. And these accident rates are better barometers of risk than purely collision frequencies or numbers. I don't have a slide to share today, but following a chat with David, our Senior Democratic Services Officer, I'm more than happy to share this information after today and answer any subsequent questions. Okay, next slide, please. So the Area Committee also asked for information on fatal collisions. For every fatal collision on our road network, we undertake a joint investigation with the police. This is out with the separate investigation the police carry out to look at potential culpability or criminality. I think that's the collision investigation team. The study, though, was an in-depth study. Any recommendations are classified as either as a consequence of the collision. So that means the recommendations are looking in some way to addressing any factors that may have contributed to the collision occurring. So where the road environment may have played a role in the collision, or less significantly, whether as a result of observations on site. So in other words, while we were there, we noticed a missing hazard marker post, an out-of-date warning sign. So something minor, typically unrelated to the fatal collision being investigated. There have been 5 fatals this year, including the one, of course, at Rickhall, tragically involving John Duggan, which resulted in 5 recommendations following observations on site. Okay. So alongside fatal collision investigations, cluster sites are another trigger for action. Essentially, that's a location with 4 or more collisions in the previous 3 years. Just being on the cluster site list does not mean that we will take action. There needs to be an underlying pattern or clear trend to the collision history. So something tangible that we can look at and we can treat. And we have a number of cluster sites this year in the Area Committee area, including one at Gowthorpe, Selby, where we're looking to introduce our first moving traffic enforcement site, which I'll come on to a little bit later. Okay, thank you. So we don't just undertake individual cluster site investigations, we also carry out route studies on an annual basis, and we use statistics to look at the significance of accidents to determine where action may also be required. We have 6 routes this year, and there is a particular focus on the B1222. So looking at Rickhall, these are the 5 junctions on the A19. Next slide, please. And this table shows the number of personal injury collisions at each of the junctions since 2000. And a couple of points to note, and my apologies, there is a typo. That 2006 to 2020 category should be 2016 to 2020. My apologies. And bear in mind what I was saying earlier in that we typically look at 3 years, sometimes 5 years of the last 3 or 5 years worth of collision history for collision investigation purposes. You can see, though, that from 2000 to 2005 time period, there was a collision cluster site, but following some engineering improvement, which I discussed earlier, that work was carried out in the early noughties, I think around 2002, over the course of the last 20 years or so. Notwithstanding the very sad passing of John Duggan, collision numbers have dwindled, and there has been a corresponding improving safety record. Nevertheless, we recognise the strength of feeling locally, and as you will be aware, we're moving swiftly to introduce a lower 50-mile-an-hour speed limit, which should be in place during the current financial year. I'm hoping it's going to be in place February, March time next year. To further reinforce that lower speed limit, though, we're looking to introduce gateway features, rumble strips, and speed limit roundels at regular intervals to act as reminders. And something that we would not normally do, we're also looking to further supplement the proposals with the introduction of permanent vehicle activated signs with a 50-mile-an-hour sign with slow down when triggered. I'm happy to address the issue of 40-mile-an-hour speed limit as well. This section of the A19 is currently 60 because that's the speed limit that most closely matches the characteristics of a national speed limit road, i.e. it has a long straight alignment, there's no development, there are few bends, junctions or accesses. We're happy to apply a flexible interpretation to the definition of a 50-mile-an-hour speed limit, hence our proposal to introduce one. but a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit would not be appropriate. It doesn't match in any way the definition in the guidance, accepting fully that it is guidance as well. Key thing for us is that although the reality is that motorists are more likely to respect lower speed limits when they perceive hazards in the environment, i.e. when they're more legible. So when the local surroundings and road characteristics don't match motorist expectations for what a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit environment looks like, if we were to put one in, there would be an almost immediate compliance issue. There is a permanent counter on the A19 in the vicinity, and our expectation is that speeds will drop further when the improvements have been introduced, and we'll use that counter to monitor speeds and traffic as well going forward. And we can also attach a data logger as well to the permanent vehicle activated signs, and that will also capture useful information too. Okay, thank you. So this slide is just a summary of the data that we collect essentially. There's a permanent counter in the areas I've mentioned. It provides really good, useful, ongoing information, and recognising that speeds are already commensurate with a 50-mile-an-hour speed limit, we do fully expect, as I mentioned earlier, for there to be a further reduction in recorded speeds following the introduction of our proposed measures. Thanks. So alongside the earlier information on fatal collision investigation recommendations and our cluster sites and route treatment work, I've also put this slide in as well to show the wider work that we're actively involved in across the wider area committee geography. We've embarked on a county-wide review of speed limits outside schools, in fact every educational establishment, and this is following a review of our 20-mile-an-hour speed limit and zone policy back in 2022 and a subsequent review in 2023, and we now have a far more receptive approach towards lower speed limit schemes. And that extends too to parish council requests. In the past, and up until very recently, it would have been likely a no to a 20-mile-an-hour request or a lower speed limit in a village. Today, rather than asking why should we, there is now presumption in favour. And the question today is more, why shouldn't we introduce a lower speed limit? And this slide shows a summary of what we're doing in the area committee area. I was at T-Scrutiny on Wednesday, discussing our draft speed management strategy, which is being considered by our corporate director, Carl, and executive member Malcolm here today, in November. And if approved, that will pave the way for a planned programme of speed limit reviews that will see the work that you see in front of you further accelerated. One of the asks of the committee was also what do we do about school-placed parking. Here are some of the tools that we have available. I would though draw members' attention to the last two bullet points. School streets, essentially a timed motor vehicle traffic restriction outside schools to eliminate local congestion, reduce risk, improve air quality and encourage active modes such as walking and cycling and scooting. We have two in the county at the moment, one in Harrogate and one in Scarborough, and we're looking to expand further the number that we have in North Yorkshire. And we're also engaging with the Merrill Combined Authority on potential ANPR funding, ANPR cameras, forgive me, to enforce the restrictions, which is linked to the final bullet point on the slide here. So following a successful application to government 18 months or so ago, North Yorkshire is now a civil enforcement area for the purposes of enforcing certain move and traffic contraventions, such as yellow box junctions, band right turns, bus lanes, cycle lanes, that kind of thing. And our first proposed site is Gowthorpe Selby, which we're hoping to get up and running in this financial year. The government has also allocated North Yorkshire Council £2.96 million through the Safer Roads initiative. That's specifically for the section between Selby and county boundary. And this is as much about reducing risk and not just about addressing an existing, forgive me, Doncaster Metropolitan. The slide shows some of the examples of the type of work that we're looking at. And it's something I touched on at a previous area committee, and we will keep the area committee updated and in fact informed on progress and seek their views as the project develops.
Councillor McCartney, could you just wait to ask questions when we've come to the end of the report? Thank you. Make a note.
In terms of the next slide, Similar to an earlier slide where I showed the schools and the parish councils we're engaging with on speed limit reduction schemes, this slide shows which parishes have taken advantage of our temporary vehicle activated sign initiative. So £5,000, it gets you signs, it gets you posts, a 5-year warranty. They're proving very popular, well received by parishes and the communities they serve. And this slide also shows where we have permanent vehicle activated signs installed as well. So that's in locations where there's an existing speed related collision problem. Another request of the area committee was impact of traffic on air quality. This slide shows where the diffusion tube monitoring sites are. So they're little tubes that capture data on, I think it's typically nitrogen dioxide. Where they exceed a certain threshold, an air quality management area must be declared and effectively an action plan prepared for tackling the problem. And in Selby, there is a places and movement study that's looking at reducing the impact of traffic and seeking to improve local air quality. Okay. So I added this next slide in because as a local highway authority with road safety responsibilities, we don't just act in isolation. Through the York and North Yorkshire Road Safety Partnership, we work alongside our road safety partners in the police, the Fire and Rescue Service, City of York Council, National Highways and others who also are very active in this area of road safety. And we typically look at the 3 E's: education, enforcement and engineering. And this slide shows the number of safety camera van deployments in the area committee area. Thank you. And then following the partnership theme, this is a summary of the ETP, education, training and publicity activity undertaken in the area committee area. And these are typical initiatives and campaigns that are carried out year in and year out. And then the final slide. We've been asked about safety cameras. They've come up already. This is an area of regular interest from communities and indeed members alike. Currently, safety cameras are not approved for use on the local road network, but through a police and combined authority-led project, which we are involved in as well, they are under active consideration. Specifically as to whether they would deliver a road safety benefit, which they almost certainly would, but also critically as well, what a financially sustainable safety camera partnership would look like too. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alan. And can I just thank you and officers for producing that document? I think, as I'd said at the start of the meeting, you know, it's an issue that impacts all of us across North Yorkshire. So it's valuable to have this information for all of us. I just wanted to see, I can't see John Hunter, but I wanted to see if you would like to come in and make comments. Obviously, there's been a lot of mention of the speed limit. So I wanted to invite you in to comment if you would like.
Absolutely. Basically, I would just back up what Alan said regarding 40 miles per hour speed limits. There's a big difference between the actual posted speed limit and the speed that vehicles travel at. And it's very, very difficult to get a driver to moderate their speed if they don't see the need for it. So, hence the guidance that the DFT produces. So the environment is particularly important. If a driver drives through a built-up area, they're far more inclined to stick to a lower speed limit than having the same lower speed limit in a area, which in order to make a lower speed limit, we need pretty much continue our format with camera vans would be sustainable.
We're not hearing you very clearly, John. I'm afraid you're breaking up a little bit, so we might have to just cut that short.
I'm sorry, it's probably the quality of my broadband.
We could hear you then. We'll try again if you keep going.
Okay, how much did you hear on the first one?
If you could start again, sorry, John.
There's a big
Apologies, John. We've completely lost you now, so we'll move on. Sorry, excuse me. It's a member of North Yorkshire Police that's agreed to join us for this extraordinary meeting. So I thank you. I don't think he's actually here today, so thank you, members. I will come to questions. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, John. Sorry if has he gone? He's completely gone. Before I come to questions from members, I wanted to just see if Councillor Stephanie Duckett would like to speak at all. This is her ward. If you have any comments, I know that this has impacted all of you.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of my points have been addressed really, but there's 50-mile-an-hour limit. I know I'm probably flogging a dead horse, but if they spend all this money to put those 50-mile-an-hour signs and all the roundels and this, that and the other, they're not going to turn around and say it's not working and give us the 40 that we really need. There is junctions there where parents are having to take children across to go to schools. Older children, there was some there the other day I saw that had obviously got off a school bus waiting to cross over to get home. And it's scary. I've tried it myself crossing over there. And just to see how scary it is. And it is scary standing in the middle there with traffic zooming past you both sides. The speed limit really needs looking at. I did contact Joe Coles at York to ask if we could be the trial run if they do decide to use these fixed cameras with the average speed thing on, to ask if we can be used as a trial case for it. That would be an idea. I have sadly more or less given up on the idea of a roundabout. I've always been pragmatic in my time as a councillor. I know how these things work. You start off with your wish list and you have to cut it down. But we're not going to give up on everything. This 40-mile-an-hour really, really needs to be looked at. I know the police don't like it, but I don't give a monkey's whether the police like it or not. It's something that is needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Steph. So I'll come to members' questions now. Any questions for anybody that's in the room? Obviously, we can't ask any questions to John. So I've got indications from Andy and John. Andy, if you want to come to you first.
Thank you very much, Chair. I've got a statement and a question, if that's all right, if you can indulge me. First one is a statement. I have a couple of cluster sites that are missing from your list. One's Cattle Crossroads and Rudgate Junction. Both of them have regular accidents there, including fatalities. One of them, well, especially cattle, you've installed roundels, we've got red markings, we've got rumble strips, we've got a 2 metre by 2 metre give way sign, and they still sail through the junction and have accidents. I don't know what else you can do besides the junction actually needs staggering. It's the only way you're going to stop accidents there. Rudgate has a different issue. It's normally to do with a sight line and the verge maintenance. Sorry, Carl. It's on a bend and the verge is not cut far enough so that you can actually see. It's a 60-mile-an-hour as you come to the junction. So people are motoring and they just can't see oncoming traffic. And the question, I'll get to the question. I've got a TRO going through for Sickling Hall and the primary school. I know it's not a simple TRO outside the school, but I just wonder if you could give me any indication of timescales on it. I know it is an extensive application because the school is 100 metres inside the 30 from a 60. So I've been working with Darren to figure out how to get to a 30 or a 20 down to past the school. But if you could email me and let me know where we are in the scheme, that'd be great. Thank you very much, Chair. And Alan.
Thank you. Alan, would you like to come back?
Yep, certainly. I'll come back very shortly regarding the Sickling Hall timeline. Is cattle the one where we think there's a concern over sat navs? Yeah.
I've reported it on sat nav.
Yeah.
appears on a sat nav as a straight through main road coming down and across towards the bridge. But unless you stagger that junction, there's no way that you're going to stop accidents there.
I think we've gone about as far as we can, given the existing junction arrangement. As the councillor was saying there, we've lit it up really pretty much as we can. Fundamentally, it is an issue of sat navs showing it as a straight through. Your point about a staggered junction is a valid one as well. But I'll come back to you as regards Sickling Hall, and I'll also look at that. I think you mentioned Rudgate too. Yeah, I'll have a look at that as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. Councillor John McCartney, did you make a note of your question?
Yeah, well, I've got a point to make first. The entire A19 from Doncaster to Selby has got massively busy, like everywhere else has, hugely busy, mainly with HGVs thundering through our villages. And yet the road has not been upgraded any real way during that decade. This government grant was mentioned, 2.9 million from government. Now, we were going to get a roundabout at Bourne Crossroads, which is one of those sort of black spots for accidents. But that's been pulled, and we're going to get a little bit of titivation, just widen it all a bit. So that was an opportunity for a real piece of road safety being put in, like Steph said about the roundabout. And God knows how they're going to spend the 2 million on it with a bit of titivation. And I'd just be amused at that. The big, what we do need is we need average speed cameras, and we need them urgently, and we need them in many areas. And they'll save lives more than anything else we can do. And my question is, and I just don't believe anybody in this room knows about all the accidents that are taking place in the Selby district or in North Yorkshire in England, because who records them? Highways don't, the police don't, many of them aren't reported. They just go, I had an idiot bang into back of me, and when I rang 101, the police told me, contact your insurer, which and many other people have told me is happening. So nobody's got any idea where the accident black spots are and how many accidents are actually happening every day, unless the police turn up, or or if it's the fire engine have to turn up if it's serious. We've no idea. So we've no idea where the dangers are. So there's no way we can do anything about it.
Thanks, John. Do you want to come back in, Alan? Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, a number of points there. In terms of the roundabout with regards to the A19 at Balmore, the challenge that we had was that the figure of 2.96 million, most of that in reality would have been swallowed up by the roundabout, probably. And when we put that to the DFT, it wasn't something that they were prepared to accept. They wanted to see a more wider route-based approach, and spending pretty much all of it at the roundabout, that they weren't going to accept that, unfortunately. So we are looking at other alternatives. In terms of collisions recorded, all collisions involving personal injury are recorded by North Yorkshire Police, and then we're recipients of that data. We help cleanse, validate it, and we use that for our own collision investigation purposes, so cluster site treatment, etc. that we've discussed already.
Don't have a full list of all the accidents, do we? We've no idea how many accidents there are. The only ones you're recording is where we've had injuries. Oh, I assume if they knock down one of your street lights.
So the problem with damage-only collisions or near misses is the subjectivity attached to them. It's hearsay, it's third hand, it's one person's view over another. Yeah. The only objective metric that we have is in the context of collisions involving personal injury. And the objective metric is the police carrying out that initial assessment and providing us with the information. The problem with near misses and damage only is that you don't have that objectivity.
So we've no idea.
Councillor McCartney, can we go on to other members' questions? Thank you, Alan. Councillor Clifton.
Thank you, Chair. It's about the cameras. North Yorkshire has traditionally been against fixed cameras, and they do the mobile cameras. But I know a village in my patch, Burn, has put up a speed camera. The parish council has put it up. Now, I don't know what they're doing with the data. This will all be covered by various laws about data protection, etc. But the parish council has paid for and has got a speed camera and is recording data from that speed camera. Possibly this could be looked into. Thank you.
Carl, do you want to come in there? Thank
I'm
you.
just going to sort of cover off the speed camera bit really, if I can. So unfortunately, John's connection's not good. And to be fair to John, he is actually on holiday and was good enough to dial in for this meeting. So to be fair to him, you know, he couldn't have made it today, but I'm sure he would have done if he'd have been in the country and not on leave. So just in terms of the camera part, so there's been an ongoing review of speed enforcement by what was originally the Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner before that role was absorbed into the mayoral function. That's been ongoing for quite some time now, I think something in the order of about 3 years. The police are the agency are responsible for enforcement of speed on the road and not the council. So it's not within our gift as the council to be able to place cameras on the road network. We are engaging with that review. We've been pushing quite hard for that review to reach a timely conclusion. We think that that work is now drawing to a close. And I think, as Alan said earlier, it's looking at a number of things. It's looking at the benefits that having fixed and average cameras on the network are. It's looking at how a safety camera partnership would work if we had one. So that's an arrangement between largely the council and the police around how that is administered and how the benefits of safety benefits are maximised in terms of the network. We continue to have the mobile safety camera arrangements, which do have some benefits beyond in that because they are mobile, they can be deployed at locations where there are known issues or concerns. Downside with fixed cameras is people get to know where on the network, they slow down for them and they speed up afterwards. Whereas with average, clearly, there is no escape from an average camera. You have to do that speed on that section of the road. And I think as a council, we see that there are merits particularly in the average cameras in the right location. So hopefully that review will be concluded hopefully by the end of the calendar year. Formal decisions will be made, and then if the decision is made to move forward with this, then we'd have to set up the partnership and then look at that arrangement. So even if that decision is made, it's not going to be a quick thing in terms of seeing that type of infrastructure on the road. I presume what Councillor Lunn is referring to is not a camera that captures motorists, as it were, because the parish council won't be able to do that. It's a device that measures what speed vehicles are travelling on the road as an evidential base to demonstrate whether there is a speeding issue on the network or not. And that's something that we regularly deploy when we look at changing speed limits. And as the table Alan showed what the speed limits are, because quite often what we get is anecdotal comments around the speed of vehicles. And we like to base our decisions obviously on evidence and data about what speed vehicles are actually going. And the last thing I was just going to mention about speed limits is, I mean, firstly, I acknowledge this is a really sensitive, difficult community issue. We absolutely get the strength of feeling from the community in the room. We also understand that the guidance is that, as the MP said, it is guidance from the Department of Transport. We try and be consistent in the way that we look at these issues across the county, and we try and refer to the guidance. However, we do recognise that there are always local circumstances and local issues that we need to play into the mix. When we look at any issue, whether it's a road safety issue or it's another highways issue, I think the reality is that changing a number on a sign doesn't always result in a change of behaviour of the motorist. And it would be sort of irresponsible for us to assume that doing that made a difference on the road, which is why largely the police look for limits to be self-enforcing, whether that's by physical measures that we do on the road themselves or as a result of enforcement. We also don't legislate for outliers, if you like, in terms of speed, because people that drive irresponsibly and dangerously, and I'm absolutely sure there will be people that do that on the A19, pay scant regard to what number there is on the speed limit sign. So the way that we assess the speed and the numbers effectively excludes those people, because we don't set limits based on outliers, as it were. And the last thing I was just going to mention was I think there was a suggestion about us meeting the action group on site in the town council. We're more than happy to do that, myself and Alan, to go out and have a detailed look at the issues on site. And we are open to if there are other things that we could do that would be positive in terms of improving that local environment. So this is what we think we can do now. That's not to say there isn't more we can do, and we're more than happy to continue that engagement. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, Carl. Do you want to come back, Councillor?
Could I just mention that the camera in Byrne does actually record number plates, and I do know that they've shared this data with the police. I don't know about the legalities of this. To me, it seems a bit iffy on GDPR, but this is what's happened.
Thank you, Councillor, and thank you, Cal, as well, for just clarifying on why John's not here. I'm sure that John would be happy to come to a future meeting. Councillor Mike Jordan.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, very emotive subject, and I'd like to first of all thank Keir Mather, our MP, for coming today and showing himself, because and the members of the public. We don't normally get many members of the public. This is a serious incident, tragedy that should not have happened. And I'm absolutely appalled, and my question would be to the police. I'm absolutely appalled that the police aren't here. There's plenty of them kicking about. It's not down to one man in the police force, and they should have been here, because my question would have been to them. I had an issue in my ward many moons ago, and I got my knuckles wrapped, and I had to go to the police station at Fulford and sit and talk with the police there. And it was just after a bank holiday weekend, and the police were more excited about the fact that over the weekend they'd caught 2,000 people speeding on the speed camera. And when I asked, well, what are you going to do about that? They says, oh, well, basically, we're just taking the money in. They weren't actually bothered about well, what are you doing to actually improve road safety from that perspective, having got that information and collared 2,000 people. And that really annoys me. And we need to be more focused on safety. It's not hard. Plenty of places do speed cameras throughout the country, and I think the sooner that it's taken out of council's hands as regards safety on our highways, the better, because I regularly go to a place called Keswick, and I go through a village there which has got an average speed camera, and it works. Introducing measures to say you should only be doing 50 does not work. Never has worked. There are plenty of places, and we could draw a list up. I know John McCartney and I have got a list of places, certainly in our wards, and all the way up the A19. You've got the villages like Byrne, in Cliff's ward, where an average speed camera would work. You would immediately have them doing 30 or 40, whatever the speed limit was, saying to them on a little round circle saying, you must do 50, does not work. Never has worked. And I wish the police were here to answer to all this, because I think the sooner or later they get their act together and sit down and have a proper discussion and proper meeting about the introduction of speed cameras, the better. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mike. I think there's definitely sounds like some recommendations going forward in terms of who we invite to future meetings. Councillor Jack Proud.
Hi, I just wanted to, on page 23, you've got Balby Road going from 30 to 40. I'm assuming it's the wrong way around. Is it the stretch between West Millfood and the roundabout in Balby that's going to be lowered? Just confirm. Thank you.
I don't know is the short answer. Like you, I hope it is 40 to 30, but I made a note and I will check. Okay. Could I also just come back on an earlier point as well, just following from what Carl said? I mentioned earlier that I went to T Scrutiny earlier in the week. The fact that we are looking to go out to communities proactively and seek their views on lower speed limits in their area. It really does signal a cultural shift for NYC from previous years. And whilst we're not advocates or supportive of default 20-mile-an-hour speed limits, the fact that we're investing time, effort, resources, and so forth in carrying out this work in the coming years, that's quite a big thing for North Yorkshire.
Thanks, Alan. And I do agree with that. I think, all members in this room know their wards best. So that intelligence is really helpful. I've got Councillor Bob Packham, and then I've got Councillor Steve Shawright.
Thanks, Chair. First of all, just to say that I support what the residents of Rickle and what our councillor for Rickle is trying to do. I think we do need to not just stick to what guidance says. I think the problem with guidance is that the perception is that even when you get guidance, it is interpreted subjectively and inconsistently, and I think that causes lots more problems. In terms of the points I want to raise, I'd like to raise the issue of accidents on the roads east of Sherburn in Elmet. I know that Alan's already told us that we'd only look at the last 3 years, but people might be shocked to hear that between 2003 and July 2023, there were 109 recorded accidents on a 2-mile stretch, of which 49 were classified as serious or fatal. The committee report identifies the B1222 as the site with the most KSI accidents in the committee area, indicating that between 2022 and 2024, there were 4 fatal and 10 serious accidents. That's 4.66 per annum. Although accidents are lower on Sir John's Lane and Cold Hill Lane, which runs to Lotherton, there were 29 serious and 4 fatal accidents there between 2000 and 2025. The high level of serious accidents is related to speed and the road's challenging physical characteristics. Speed surveys have recently been carried out at the 30-mile limit going on to Church Hill and on Sir John's Lane. They're now the only 30-mile limits in Sherburn that don't then run into a 40-mile limit, because over the last few years, we've managed to establish TROs on the others, Doncaster Road, Bishop Dyke Road, which extends the 40 limits out into what you might describe as the countryside. From the speed surveys, it's been found that at the 30-mile limit sign on Sir John's Lane, 15% of vehicles were travelling at more than 41.5 miles an hour, and the average speed there was about 34 miles an hour. And within the 30-mile limit on the B1222 Church Hill, 15% of vehicles were travelling at more than 36.4 miles an hour. So the situation is that the speed limits are being exceeded all the time, and no one's doing anything about it. In both cases, the average speed was more than the speed limit in Sir John's Lane by more than 5 miles per hour. Current levels of enforcement are limited to the deployment of the speed camera vehicle. And over the last 5 months, that's been out 5 times in Cold Hill Lane, and that's it. There's been no deployment on the B1222 west of Sherburn. I think action is urgently required to reduce speeds and improve safety on this stretch of the B1222 and on Sir John's Lane, Cold Hill Lane. A combination of enforcement and infrastructure changes should be considered. This should include a reduction of the 50-mile-an-hour speed limit, of the speed limit to 50 miles an hour, from the A63 to Church Hill, and from Cold Hill Lane to the Leeds boundary, and the extension of the 30-mile per hour limit at Sir John's Lane beyond Latestade Lane and the bend onto Cold Hill Lane. It's interesting to note that the speeds on the A63 dual carriageway, which is at the end of this 2-mile stretch, have recently been reduced to 50 miles an hour, and the speed limit on the roads into Leeds at the end of Cold Hill Lane are 30 miles an hour. So we've got 2 stretches of 60-mile-an-hour speed limit where the evidence of numerous accidents is quite clear. I'd like to see something done there. I'd like to meet on site. I'd like to meet highway officers on site. I'd like to meet the police on site and see what we can do to try and reduce what is effectively the worst accident black spot in Selby district. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Alan, would you like to come back?
Yeah, and forgive me, I haven't read in detail your incredibly detailed report, but I am circulating it and we will come back to you with further information. And again, similarly, if you want a site visit with NYC, with North Yorkshire Police as well, we'd be more than happy to do that. Thanks, Alan. I've got Councillor Steve Shaw right now.
Thanks, Chair. Coming back to the sort of main point of the meeting, I think, well, going off that is I think we need to have these meetings regularly because obviously every member's got issues in their area. And this one was brought about by John's death. I think when we spoke about the guidance, and the guidance quite clearly states in 12, use the right speed limits in the right place, which I think is relevant to us. And I'm aware that a roundabout is probably very, very, very wishful thinking. And we're always told that, you know, the money's not there, but it was there, but it's redistributed. But this year, for highway maintenance, North Yorkshire Council received a 25% uplift from the government. They got an extra 15.46 million, which is use of maintenance, but you can via budgets. And what I'm always interested in from North Yorkshire, who never got any money, on highways, there's a little road called Kexgill. We started at a budget of 68.8 million with a 2 million contingency built in. We are currently looking at 82.5 million. So North Yorkshire have managed to find down the back of the sofa 20 million quid. And that hasn't finished yet. It says in the report, further monies are likely to be needed, and no doubt that will be found. We've just found 3 million, I think it is, for a pitch, football pitch in Scarborough that we didn't, is it 4 now? It might be 5 because they've had a fire recently in the boiler room, which is very reminiscent of Selby because if you short money, burn the place down and you get a new one. I do think that if we do, we need to take the emotion out of it. I know it's difficult because, you know, a lot of us around this table knew John for a long time. Whether you get on with him or not. But I do think the issue should be for this committee on this issue to start with. And I think most people around this table recognise that a speed limit of 40 miles an hour is warranted. And I accept that most drivers, if they don't think it should be that speed limit, they will drive further, which is why when you go on the motorway and you do a nice little 70 on cruise control, there's BMWs and thing flying past you. But the way to stop them that is you make them do it, and you put in speed cameras and you put in the average speed camera, and it's ideal place to put them either end of Rickle with a 40 mile an hour limit. And I would like to move at the moment that this committee recommends to North Yorkshire Council that they take all measures possible for the introduction of a 40 mile an hour speed limit in the area around, including up to and beyond Rickle.
Thanks, Councillor. Sure. Do you want to? Yes. Do you want to just make that clear that that's the motion you're proposing? Yeah. Do I have a seconder for that?
Yeah, seconded it exactly well.
Councillor, do you want yes, just yeah, just what I'll just see if Alan wants to come in, and then we'll come back to the recommendation.
Just briefly, in terms of the maintenance funding that we have 9,000 kilometres of road network, much of it in need of maintenance. What we have isn't enough. We need more. And one of the biggest complaints that we get is potholes, defects, and everything else. And we have to invest in the network, and we mustn't apologise for that. In terms of Kexgill, the existing road is slipping into the valley, and it's a major east-west connection. I would say no more than that. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Alan. So I've had a recommendation. Councillor Warnock, did you want to come in now? It was your turn to speak now, but you said you indicated you had.
Thank you, Chair. I support everything that Councillor Shawright has said. If we're going to put a recommendation forward, I'd like to add to it, acknowledging the fact that we got a single issue here, but it's stimulated an interesting discussion that this committee needs to be doing more frequently. So something I'd like to add to it is that we have at least an annual review of road safety in this area. And I say at least because tragically, what might happen is something might happen in one of our areas. I mean, I've had a few fatalities in the division I represent. And we might want to bring that forward. And I think we should have that facility bringing it forward. But I would say at least annually we get the report, the calibre of the report. And thank you, Alan. It's a really good report you presented today. It's just maybe we need to see that sort of thing more often. And then the other point I was going to make is that I don't know about other members, but with the fatalities that I've had in my division, not all of the time have I been contacted directly as a result of that fatality. Sometimes I've had to push to get information to give to the public. So I'd like to see a more working cooperatively between members and officers, that we actually are contacted as a matter of routine if there's a fatality in our division. So that's a framework for adding to your recommendation, if you're okay with that.
Yes, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite happy to accept that. I mean, I was going to suggest some measures that, well, recently a car was abandoned at the end of Armory Road, Doncaster Road, just near a roundabout. I informed the police. I informed North Yorkshire. I informed the police in the subject of my grandson-in-law, who's a police officer, who said he'd also reported it. It took more than 28 days for somebody to come and shift that car, and it caused major block on the road and slowed down the traffic tremendously. I would not suggest that somebody finds a wreck and dumps it on the side of the A19. However,
thank you, Councillor Shaw. I think that what I've noted here is we've probably got two quite clear recommendations. One would be yours, Councillor Shaw, and one would be yours, Councillor Warnock, and rather just to keep them clear. Before we go to the recommendations, I've got two more. Okay, you can come in.
Okay, thank you. And to Councillor Paraskos's comment, all that time, you're the very first person to speak, because it stimulated some thought in my processing. Because Alan, I've lived in my area for 46 years, and Cattle Crossroads and Wixley Crossroads have both changed priority in that time. And I was wondering, do we look at changing priority on a crossroads in terms of road safety? Because Cattle Crossroads, the priority now is to link Calthorpe to Tockwith, which is residential, and yet you've got massive trading estate developing on the other side of that crossroads, which maybe they should have priority rather than the few cars going one way. So is traffic volume a consideration when deciding whether priority should change or not?
Alan?
It is the short answer, and we can look at that for Cattle and Wixley as well to see whether that makes sense, and we'll get back to you with a more detailed response. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Carl Arthur and Councillor Steph again. Was yours the recommended? It may have been the recommended. Okay. So Carl, if I can come to you, and then we'll move to recommendations if no other members would like to speak.
Thanks, Chair. It's just in relation to some issues I've got in my division. I note that outside of Cliff Primary School there's an advertisement for a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. So thank you for that. At the same time that I asked for that, I asked for Cliff, a safe crossing over the A63 at Cliff, because the school's on the south side of the road, and most of the residents live on the north side, and there's no safe crossing over that road at the moment, so that they can walk or cycle, so they're having to use the cars to come from the north side to the south. So my first question is, did anything get done about that? Because I mentioned this was something I discussed with Jo Coles when I had my meeting with her, and we discussed these things. And we did say that we would get in contact with you about those things. So that's my first question. And the second one is relating to Osgoodby.
And I want to know, will the speed limit be reduced to 30 miles an hour to facilitate a new school and extra housing being built on the south side of the A63? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alan. Are you happy to come in?
Yeah, just briefly, I'm making notes as members are talking. I'm taking away an action list. I will come back to each and every member very, very shortly.
Thank you. Thank you, members, for the input there. That was it's a really important subject and sensitive and impactful for everyone. David's noted down 3 recommendations. I noticed that Councillor Shorrock has left, so we'll go on to the second one for now. But Councillor Warner, can you do you want to make your recommendation, please? About it was members' involvement and.
Chair, have you made a note of my recommendation, David? Because I can't read my scroll, that's all. But if you haven't, I'll try again. But I did miss something off, because on that at least 12 monthly update on road safety, I would want to include, and we have a police officer here at the same time.
Chair, I've got 3. It's the regular reports, at least annually, and I'll add that about the police attending as well. I've also got the one about members being more involved and being contacted about the process. And then there's one that Councillor Shorrock brought in about the committee supports the recommendation that NYC takes all measures possible to investigate the introduction of a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit. But we'll wait for him to confirm that last one. Alan, do you have any comments on those 3 recommendations?
I think in years gone by, we actually did used to provide an annual road safety update to area committees. Whether there's a conversation to be had regarding T-scrutiny as well, in the context of kind of having that wider view, but that point is noted. I've noted the recommendations, and that's fine.
Yeah, we'll do this recommendation first. We wanted to wait until Steve had come back in the room, then he could make his proposal. So, are you happy to make your recommendation?
Yes. I've done.
Okay. Is there anybody happy to second that? Thank you, Councillor Packham. Could we all vote on that, please? All in favour? Thank you. And the second recommendation is regular reports. I can't remember who noted. Was that Arnold as well? Would you like to say? Would anybody like to second that for more regular reports? Thank you, Councillor Parascos. That's seconded. All in favour? Thank you. That's carried. And so can I go back to you, Councillor? It's all right, just to make your recommendation.
Apologies for dashing out. It's a gentleman of a certain age. That this area committee fully supports the introduction of a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit on the run-up, including and beyond Rickle. And we call upon the executive to support that and do as much as they possibly can.
That was very clear. Thank you.
The average speed camera at either end. Sorry.
Okay, so is everyone clear on that? Councillor Duckett, you're still happy to second. All in favour of that, please? Anyone again? I think that was unanimous, I'm fairly sure. Yeah. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for that discussion. I think it is one that we need to keep constantly coming back to and keep discussing. There's some significant changes, hopefully, with it that we can make, and I think it's a key role of the area committee to speak on this. No one else has indicated to speak, so we move on to item 8. Any other items? There's nothing to no. So we'll just note the date of the next meeting, which is Thursday, the 6th of November. It will be here before you know it. Thank you so much, members. Could I also thank everybody for coming along? Directors, Alan, Malcolm, thank you for coming, and thank you so much for all you parishioners from Rickle. I know this is really difficult, so we really value and appreciate your time. And thank you, Judy, for speaking so bravely. I'm sure your dad will be very proud today. Thank you.